America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Hey, Sadie, can we have roll call, please?
Counselor Dunsmuir?
Here.
Counselor Gates?
Here.
Counselor Hughes?
Here.
Counselor Lidke?
Here.
Counselor Strobel?
Here.
Counselor Tenbush?
Here.
Mayor Drinkling?
Here, thank you very much. And I'm going to do something a little different tonight. Before we get to citizen and community group comment first round, I would like to wish Denise Carey a happy birthday. I did not know it was her birthday yesterday. So on that note, please help me sing happy birthday to Denise Carey.
Oh, no.
Yes,
This is going to be bad.
Here we go.
Happy birthday
to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Denise. Happy birthday to you.
And on that
It
note,
sounded like it was in stereo because everyone was on a different.
Oh, see that train wreck was on public.
We probably won't
public
want to do
record.
that again, but that's a good first round for us. Okay. In that, we're at the first citizen and community group comments. Sadie, do we have anybody on there waiting to speak?
So I know we talked about changing it to the Q&A, but since we haven't explained that yet, if anybody in the audience wishes to speak, and could you just use the raise hand function and I'll pull you into the meeting. And I've got Dawn.
Okay.
So Dawn, I'll bring you in if you could state your full name and city of residence, and you've got 5 minutes.
Dawn, are you there? Here it comes. Dawn, you gotta unmute yourself. All right, I'm not getting anything, Sadie. Is he?
Can you hear me?
There we go. Yeah, we got you.
Okay. My name's Donald Morse, and I am a citizen of Estacada, Oregon. And I'm representing Kim Truella tonight, who couldn't be here. We are asking the City Council to reconsider the parameters under which they would allow a marijuana dispensary within the city. It's our belief that the criteria that you used several years ago to come up with what is allowed and isn't allowed right now is outdated, and that we feel that the state and the city's guidelines should mimic one another. That said, some of you have been out to our farm here on South Stormer Road, and we're looking forward to more of you joining us. We've run a very professional operation here, and we would very much like to open a dispensary in the downtown area. The only remaining state parameter is that it be 1,000 feet away from the school. There's no longer restrictions as far as how close dispensaries can be from one another, nor is there any restriction as far as being away from a park or a church. So it's just being away from a school by 1,000 feet. Anyhow, that's really all I had to say. We'd really like you folks to take a look at what the state has set up, and ask that you make changes to your own guidelines here so that we can get something set up in Estacada. We feel it'd be an important source of revenue for the city. You could probably, I think, easily benefit maybe $30,000 or more dollars a year from the state's tax system. It may not seem like a lot, but I'm sure that every little bit helps in a city as small as Estacada. So it might help you to further your agenda as far as parks or civic buildings or whatever. Anyhow, again, we respectfully request that you examine this. And if you have any questions, I'm certainly more than willing to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Are there any questions for Don pertaining to this? I don't see any. Oh, Katie?
I don't have any questions, but Dawn, I want to thank you for inviting us out to the facility on Stormer Road. I did have the opportunity to visit the farm out there and can speak to the professionalism and the cleanliness and the utmost care that Kim takes in that farm and its security levels. And I appreciate the care that she puts into that facility. And again, thank you so much for the invitation to tour the farm. It was a very enjoyable experience, and Kim is a very professional lady. So thank you again.
Thank you. You're very welcome.
Well, Don, we appreciate you coming on and stating your case. We'll definitely look into state guidelines and maybe take a look at that again, and then we'll probably get back to you at a later date. Is that okay?
That'd be fine. Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else with their hand up out there?
No, I don't see anybody.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sadie. We are now moving on to the consent agenda. You've all had a chance to peruse this. Are there any changes or questions regarding the consent agenda before we ask for a motion? I'm not seeing anything. Okay, can I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I have a first. Can I have a second?
Second.
I have a first and second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving right along, we are at department and committee reports. Do any of you have a report to give for your group that you may have been, Katie, go ahead.
So I just wanted to share with everybody, nothing is super concrete at this moment, but I've been receiving some emails from some really amazing people in Estacada who are already working with some amazing youth in Estacada. And we are going to essentially be taking some of the youth that are already involved in the city drug prevention program, and we're going to essentially use the existing program as a model to kind of restructure and turn it into what is essentially going to be the new Estacada Youth Council. That being said, I'm really looking forward to having some more concrete updates and information for you in the future. I just wanted to share the excitement with everyone that this is moving forward. And I'm really hoping that before the start of the summer, we're going to have an actual council of teenagers in our city that are going to fulfill the youth council purpose of really trying to address the cities or the issues in our city facing the youth in particular. So I'm really excited. Just wanted to share the excitement with you guys, and I'm looking forward to sharing some more concrete updates with you very, very soon.
Thank you. Jerry?
So I haven't been to the my first meeting with the Parks and Recs committee yet, but one thing came out of our Page meeting last night. Steve Schuberl, his wife is the president of Page, and Steve is on the Parks and Recs committee, and he came to Page with an idea that is sounds pretty fantastic. I guess they're gonna explain it a little bit more tomorrow during the Parks and Rec meeting, but the Arts Commission and everybody's been planning this walking tour of the murals in Estacada, and Parks has brought up an idea, and hopefully it can be expanded on, where we do the QR codes that are used on everything, starting with the murals, maybe in some parks, do like have like a factual representation of the mural or a factual representation of the parks. And then what we brought up last night was also maybe have an option, have a factual one, and then have a fictitious one that is just for fun, like just using as an example that we used last night, the Mason building. You can have a factual one telling the history of the Mason, the Masonic Lodge, and then you can have a fictional one that a local Estacada resident could write about the haunting of the Masonic Lodge. But just the idea, it sounds really cool. And I think it would, if this comes to fruition and really happens, I think it could be really good for tourism in Estacada, be really informative for some of our historic places around town. And it could be really fun for people that are just out here, out here biking or whatever. They can go do the fictitious side and just have a little bit of fun with it. So I'll know more after tomorrow night's meeting, and we'll hopefully they move forward with this, because this really could be fun.
Yeah, thank you. Justin.
Yeah, just real quick, I just met with the infrastructure committee. It was a good meeting. We haven't chatted in a while, so it was mainly just kind of updating them on stuff. And as far as the new developments, talked about the wastewater treatment, that kind of stuff, but nothing new from that meeting. So that was all.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else there? All right, so on my part, I met with the fire department. The good news is we have plenty of volunteers. We're running 3 volunteer classes because they have too many to put it all into one. So this is a good sign. This is what we hope would happen. Now, if we can retain most of those, we're in good shape. That's the whole thing here. How long do they last, and are they going to last? So from what I understand, we're doing pretty well. Things are moving straight along. They've got everything in order. They've signed all the paperwork to hire their chief, their assistant, and some staff to proceed on with what they're doing. Everything is copacetic so far. It's not moving as fast as I would hope, but it is moving. So, and the volunteers are there. So let's hope that continues. On another note, for you, Katie, I got some good news. I met with Martha Schrader today and the Housing Authority. They're going to take a tour out here with us and kind of look at some properties that might be the kind of thing they're looking for a affordable housing unit that are in our city that will work, that are zoned that. So that'll be coming up, and they're going to set a date and come out here and take a look at it. So I thought that might excite you because it's going in the right direction. Other than that, that's all I have on that note. So thank you for that. The city manager's report.
Yeah, I just have a couple things. So today, a group of us met with Jennifer Donnelly, our regional solutions team, and it included the FEMA community planning and capacity building team. And we met, they had asked us for approximately 5 projects that we felt like kind of out of the wildfire disaster came about, and why we would need upgrades, because of a disaster program. So we sent them 5 good projects. One was Wade Creek Park Phase 3. The 2, Wade Creek Park Phase 3 and the Lakeshore project, are connected to the fire, in that if we had those things online sooner, then even if people couldn't get upriver, there'd be places for them to come at least to Estacada and do things. And then the other one was our pump for our water tower and our high level water tower, and our wastewater treatment plant, and then seismic upgrades to City Hall. So we had a good discussion on, they had a lot of, they told us a lot of places that maybe we could get funding for that, and they're going to work with us on applying for those. So might get some free money out of the deal.
Wow, that'd be nice.
Yeah. And then on Saturday, I sent everyone, it was kind of an elected officials and a county commissioner meeting with PGE. I did attend. I didn't see anyone on there, so I don't know if anyone maybe just didn't read their emails Saturday, but that Saturday at 2, it was very informative, and they kind of had PGE on there to explain what was going on and what happened and how they could do things better. And it was a very informative meeting. So, And there wasn't a lot of people on it, but it still was nice to sit there and listen to what everyone had to say. Counselor Licky had sent me an email before the meeting with a couple things. So he had at the last meeting, he had some concerns about the DEIC committee. And I was going to email me, and he hasn't had time to email me yet. But Sadie, can I share my screen?
Yes, go right ahead. There should be a button at the bottom.
Okay. So I sent to you before the meeting. I quickly went through, because I know one of his concerns was the establishment and the membership. All of our committees are exactly the same in our code. They each have an establishment, they have a membership, and then a responsibility. And then I see where we did have one typo. So if you look under responsibilities, it says the committee shall adopt its own rules for the appointment of members. That should say officers. There was a typo there. It shouldn't say members. And also for the membership, we had resident of Estacada for at least 1 year, and that should read resident of the Estacada School District boundary for at least 1 year. But as you can see, it has clear responsibilities, and this is an advisory committee, so anything they do would have to be approved by the council, but these are their responsibilities and what we're asking them to do on an ongoing basis. So we're going to bring this to you at the next meeting. The officer one will just be changed because that was a typo, but we do need to have the number 6 changed by council. And we have 12 applications right now of people that we are going to appoint at the next meeting. And so we're going to be sending everything that we have. We might get more next Monday. So you have a week to look at these before that meeting, because it's going to be, and I was wondering, are you going to want to interview these people so they should be there at the meeting? And if so, I think someone should come up with a set questions that all of them are asked the same questions. So I kind of need some guidance on that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think that they should be interviewed. We do it every time that there's more applicants than there is positions available. So I don't see why we wouldn't do it for this one too.
Definitely. So I don't think I always a set question maybe to start with, but based upon the answer, sometimes you can get questions that come off that you might want to ask. So,
And
we just need to be sure if we follow up with one, we give everyone an opportunity to answer that same question.
yeah,
I think that's fair.
Denise, is this the one that my wife applied for? Is it not? So
I
think I'm gonna.
I haven't seen the applications.
Oh, I think I'm gonna stay out of it. So I'm not making questions or anything.
Okay.
Okay.
We can come up with some questions and I can send them out to everyone, and then if you guys make comments on them, just back to me, and then we can adjust them.
Okay. Fair enough.
But I don't think we should have a lot of questions since there are 12 already, because that could take quite a bit of time. So maybe we'll come up with 3 or 4 good questions. And
Okay. Katie, you have something?
Would it be possible if we ended up with a longer list of questions to send some of them to everybody to answer in written form before the meeting? And then maybe just have like 1 or 2 questions that we want to actually ask people at the meeting?
that would be good, I think. And maybe if we could have them answer them by Wednesday, get them to you, and that way maybe then they could just be there to follow up with an answer or something.
Yeah. Okay, Joel?
just to let you know, Denise, I did send you that email with all those concerns I had. It was a couple pages. I just sent it to you right before.
Okay.
I was trying to clean it up a little bit because there was more pulled from notes I had made over time. So bear with me if a sentence doesn't make sense. So, but I did send it to you. And I honestly would like to share all those concerns with the council tonight, so that when we talk about it next week, that not only are those questions and my concerns on record, but also so that they can make sure that they understand what they are, and then they can have those for consideration when we discuss it further here in our next council meeting.
Okay, well, go ahead and let us know what your concerns are now, since we're talking about it.
Yep. Let me just pull my paperwork out here. So I'm just basically, to make it simple, I'm just gonna read right.
Denise,
down the
can
line.
you just, can you pull up that email and share your screen
I
again?
can't. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
I have never done this before, so I'm surprised I.
So I basically just went in the ordinance and kind of went down the way. So
Let me make these smaller. Hold on a second. Oh. Okay, hold on. I gotta.
if you double click on it, it'll
I
make
gotta
it
do it before I share the screen. Hold on just a second.
a double click on the little email there.
Yeah. I
Okay.
just gotta make these smaller. Somewhere I can do that. There we go. Okay. Okay, now let me try. That's not what I want on there. Okay, here we go.
And plus, once we discuss it here, and I think the meeting
Okay.
before, that's everybody.
I think we can see it. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
We're not seeing it
Cool.
on our end yet, though. You gotta share again.
Go ahead.
Oh, you gotta share again.
Oh, you guys don't see it?
No,
No,
we
yeah.
see you.
Okay, hold on. Okay, maybe. Share screen. Where is it? Share screen. There we go. Okay. Share. Now?
Yeah, it's working.
Okay, there we go.
All right. So the first one, I'm just going to read what it is, so to give context to it, and then I'll read what my concern was. And this is a 2.33.020 under the membership section, section C. Says connections with locally historically marginalized communities such as LGBTQ+, which is lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer, BIPOC, which is Black, Indigenous, and people of color, Hispanic and Latinx communities, youth ages 18 to 25, people with disabilities, and those with low English proficiency. So by definition of what this committee is meant to do, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion, there is a large portion of people that are in our community that are being left out of that description. So that could be anyone that could be, for example, a white male is over the age of 25, could be Asian descent. There could be a lot of different people on there that are actually being left out of that description. So I think the description needs to be rewarded. And so I'm going to go ahead and just read what I put here. The requirement does not represent an equal representation of the people of Estacada. If we are to have a requirement that says that representatives are only required to have a connection with a part of the community, then it's not an equal representation. This should read that the representative should have connection to these parts of the population as well as the rest of the population, or it should be removed as a requirement altogether. So if you're going to make a requirement there, make sure it's actually equal and fair to everybody in the community. Otherwise, it's basically it's not being equal, diverse, equity, and inclusion. So the next portion to talk about is 2.33.030. The first line in the responsibilities reads, the committee shall adopt its own rules for the appointment of members and the frequency and conduct of its meetings. There's typos in here, so bear with me. While this is a normal use of the language in our ordinances, which I did verify that, as you showed, and with the already skewed section C mentioned above, there needs to be an additional language to this so that it limits the ability for the committee to place over restricting requirements on its membership that shows lack of a proper representation of all people in our community. So they should be able to put the definition in there that's limiting, especially if we put a requirement in there that involves everybody. So we're going to be close to. Go ahead.
So that members will be changed to, they have the appointment of their officers, not members. They have.
I get the officers. On people that were representing them should still, if they're going to put requirements on there that limits what they have to be connected to. You can't see that. Then
So they won't have anything to do with the membership. That will come completely out, that members, appointment of members.
okay, so maybe you can explain then what that means when it says the officers, because I was
They'll
understanding.
appoint their officers, like who's gonna be your chair, who's gonna be your vice chair.
Okay, that makes better sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yep.
I'll just go ahead and mix that off my concern. Okay. And moving on to 233.030-A. This reads, provide input and advice for city officials and staff to advance racial equality as a central component of public processes and decision-making. The issue here is many things. First is the question of what does input mean? Being that if it's what does input mean regarding other committees? I don't see that language in use. So a definition of the term would be needed. If input is simply to advise on a decision, then it's a redundant statement. If input is beyond advice, then what does that mean? The second part of the issue with this part is that it's focusing solely on racial equality, not all the other criteria that we required in the membership portion of it. So let's see, I lost my place here. It's solely on racial equality and not all the other equality pieces needed, such as mentioned in 2.33.020 section C. The next portion is what does it mean as a central process for decision making? This cannot be a reality of every decision made by the city or council. Other items are also critical to the central component, such as resources, capability, time, safety, and what the citizens of the city want. These are in many cases are the central component of decision making. So that's also why I feel it's skewed. So we should be at least rewarded to better guide them how they should be going about that. 2.33.030-B. The phrase is not inclusive of all parties. As mentioned earlier, this should be rephrased to include everyone from all races, religions, gender, sexuality, age, etc. The purpose of this portion should be that if any group is found to be skewed, then it should work to reach out to them. So we find that there's a group of people, then this DEIC committee should work to try to get that equalized. Work with them. It doesn't always have to be what's what in that limit. So Katie's leaned back so far, her head has disappeared on my screen. It's kind of weird. Oh, that's how your head disappeared. Okay, 2.33.030-C. The phrase reads, provide community oversight and opportunities for the city to have greater accountability to the community on racial equality, inclusion, and diversity initiatives. Is missing the many identified groups already, so it makes it improper. However, one of the bigger issues with this part is that it doesn't provide any definition or greater identification of what this means, such as what does oversight and opportunities mean? Why is it only focused on race and not on everything mentioned? Why? What does accountability mean? These are questions that were asked by the community before this was put into place when this was first presented and never answered. I think we owe it to the community to answer these now before moving forward. Section 2.33-030-D. Provide input and advice. Again, this was used earlier, but does not have to write a clear definition. So again, we have to identify what input means. 2.33.030-E. This one reads, evaluate the city's progress on equity-related goals, objectives, and actions plans. When I hear evaluation, this generally means a grade or report that is meant to provide a response or change. However, as an advisory committee, that would be out of line on evaluation. A better phrasing of this portion could be review the city's progress on equity-related goals, objective, and action plans to provide feedback and suggestions. So when it comes to legal documents, I've learned that wording is everything. So 2.33.030-F. Review current policies and procedures with an equity lens. What does this even mean? There is no outcome statement for this portion, and it's very repetitive or could be combined with one of the previous portions. If the purpose is to identify problems in equity and equality and a process or procedure, then it should be identified as such. The outcome should be then to provide feedback to this council or for consideration of action. The council can then direct the city staff to make changes as needed. The code is poorly developed and does not sit as an advisory design as it should be. It should have a clear set of goals, purposes, definitions, and guidelines for it to follow. needs specific actions and limitations on its authority as it can currently written. I cannot, as it is currently written, and I can read it now, they can govern themselves and produce change without council involvement. It appears that they even can hold city and the council and city under their purview and direct change. Being that this is not an elected board and simply an appointed committee, the limitations of its position must be defined and clearly stated. So, if you could, Denise, forward that to everybody in the council. Now that I've read it openly on a council meeting, I think it can be shared without an issue. So.
Again, I'm gonna get out, I'm gonna stop sharing. You know, on these type of things, it would have really been nice to get these concerns as I thought I was gonna get them shortly after the meeting, because the authors of this were very people that had a lot of knowledge in this, and they could answer these questions, whereas I can't, because I'm not the one that developed this. So it really puts us behind to get these 1 minute before the council meeting and expect any results to be shared. So how does the council want to proceed on this?
Say bring in the right people so we can talk about it.
Yeah.
That'd be
Okay.
a
How
good
does
way to do
everybody
it.
else feel?
I think it's a great idea to, at least have a discussion amongst us with these concerns, especially though we are addressing some of the community concerns.
And Charity, Paul, you got to weigh in on this?
Yeah, so I want to see this committee happen. But I also had some questions when I did call before I was on, can really feel were quite addressed. I feel like this committee was a little bit rushed to get going, and rightfully so. But even when we're trying to put something together, we need to make sure that there are clear purposes and goals set in place for these committees. So I think the language does need to be clarified a little bit more. So people who want to get on the committee know exactly what their purpose is. And so I'm totally cool with bringing in some people and asking those questions. I hate to slow down a process, but as I do want to see this happen.
Okay.
I think Joel made some good points. Yeah. So
Okay.
that's my thought
Well,
right
thank
now.
you, Charity.
Was
Paul,
she cutting in and out for everybody else, or
Oh,
was that
yeah,
just
she
me?
was a
Okay.
little bit. I don't know
Okay.
if she's losing her on there.
It's okay.
Paul,
I didn't hear
something you wanna weigh in on this?
I was just going to say I'm in supportive of the group as well too, and I think if we can get some experts in the next meeting, or as soon as we can, to address these, and we can discuss it as a group, I think that'd be worthwhile.
Okay, and I think Katie, you had your hand up too.
So I am coming at it from a couple of different angles. So first, I see the benefit of having more clear and concise direction, because sometimes giving that clear, concise direction can be beneficial and productive. However, there are other times, especially when you're talking about an open-ended question, that closing loopholes or clarifying verbiage loses that open-ended question. I want to just throw out there, when I first made the suggestion about the Estacada Youth Council, that my idea for the Estacada Youth Council was to not tell the youth of Estacada what the issues facing them are, but to actually hear from the youth themselves what they see the issues as. And then they can take those issues that they see as important and expand on them, whether it be, getting to the root cause of an issue or whatever. That being said, the youth council was supposed to be for the youth, by the youth, and of the youth. And I kind of see this particular committee as being that same level of committee, but for the more marginalized people in our community, for those people who feel like they don't have a voice, whether they be BIPOC, LGBTQ, or, you know, disabled or whatever it is that they see themselves as being excluded because of. That being said, I would like to keep that open-ended question open for them to answer and for them to really tell us what they see the issues as and what they see the solutions for those issues as, in the same way that I think that was an appropriate direction for us to go with the Youth Council. And I think that's an appropriate direction for us to go with the Diversity Council as well. That's my 2
Okay.
cents.
All right. Jared, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I shouldn't. I'll get too emotional. I'll get too defensive, and I'm just gonna hold my comments. And I agree with what Katie said. So thank you.
Okay, great. And Joel, one more time around.
Yep. And so I just want to be clear. I want this council, this committee to happen. I just want it to be done right, and I'm all for doing it. And the needs of the people will shift over time. So that's why I'm big on making sure it's fully inclusive. Because while there might be a group of people now that is historically or has an issue like BIPOC or something that may need to be looked at, you know, a year down the road, it could be a different group. And so that's why being so clear on the definition of who's included and covered by this is so important, so that it has the ability to shift and be open and have that open-ended question that you kind of put there. As far as the other parts of it, it's an advisory committee. So we need to make sure that the wording there keeps it as an advisory committee, because currently right now there's enough question in there that I just wanted to make sure that that's clarified. So that it's just, we need to make sure that we put in there the limitations of what they can and can't do, as you would on any other committee. And I've read a bunch of the other committees, and I saw the language used in a lot of those committees has pretty clear definitions of it. And they, you know, they're well defined. And so let's just make sure we do the same thing with this one. And just make sure that we don't leave somebody out of the way because of some verbiage we didn't address and have to come back and do this again and again and again every time we run into that. Let's just take it, slow it down a little bit, take a good look at it, do it right, and make sure it can properly affect and help everybody the way it's meant to do it. So.
Okay. All right. So we got kind of a mixed bag here. So I think go ahead, Denise.
Well, I think we should have a meeting next Monday to go over this, so it doesn't hold us up on the next meeting. So maybe, and we would have this only on the agenda, and that way we can discuss it and have Taylor here, if that's okay with everybody.
Okay. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah, I think a workshop would be good.
Yep. All right. Done
Oh,
deal. Put it
Really
on.
quick, Denise, would it be possible to throw one more agenda item onto a workshop for next Monday?
Hold on, let me get the date real quick so we all know what we're.
Also, I just want to make sure, because I have a pretty full schedule, that I'm not.
It would be February, no,
No, it was March 1st.
it would be March 1st.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. So.
Go ahead, Katie, what?
Marijuana ordinances.
Okay. So can everyone start at 6? Would that be okay?
Yeah, for me, I think 6 is good.
I'm checking my schedule, sorry. Yeah, I do have an appointment that might cause an issue at 6, but I'll see if I can get it changed.
Okay.
So.
Okay, I'll get that. I'll try to get it. What I'm hearing is the responsibilities are okay, but they just need to be reworded. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think it just needs to be more clearly defined.
But what we're telling them we want them to do is basically what we want them to do, but we want to be sure they know they're an advisory committee. And
yeah, and like I said, I would also like us to relook at the definitions of who's included in there, and if there's a better way to word that.
Well, we might just be have to add something and any other blah 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 blah. I don't know what, but we'll look at something for that that tries to include everybody.
Maybe we could just at least bring options for us to look at. It'd be great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Everyone good to go?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Okay,
All
good.
right, good.
I don't think I had anything else.
All right.
Oh, I know Joel had one more question, or Officer or Counselor Licky had one more question about the 4-year mayor term. So we would be what we would be aiming for is the November 2nd ballot. So we'd have to have our ballot title done by August 13th. So normally when we do a charter change, we have a charter review committee that brings it to, so you're involving your community, and then they bring it to the council, their recommendations. And we can point out this is what we want changed, but they can look at all the other pieces of it too. So is that how we still want to proceed with this one?
I just had a quick question.
Yeah.
Was there an earlier ballot in this year that you had mentioned when we talked about this about a month or so ago?
Yeah, there's certain ones that the November one you're for sure not going to get charged for.
Okay, so that's the one that's free and everything else is charged.
Yeah, and we wouldn't have an election till the next November, so that would be plenty of time.
Okay.
Yep. So do you want to go ahead and do a small charter review committee? There might be some other things we look at in there, and if you guys would just peruse the charter, it's only a few pages, and let me know if there's anything else you'd like looked at.
Yeah,
too.
I think there wasn't one we mentioned during the council rules that we said we'd have to change.
Yeah, you might want to look at how a counselor is given the heave-ho and
Okay.
change your charter if you
Yeah,
want.
I remember there was something like that. So
All right.
fine.
Okay, that's all I had.
All right.
Thank you
Great.
so much, Denise. I appreciate it.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Any other questions before we let Denise go? No?
Can I go?
All right. We're going to let you go. Council business. First thing on council business, we got Acuity LLC audit contract. I'll let you speak to that, Denise.
This is Glenn Kearns. He's one of our auditors. He's the lead auditor we have, and we had talked about different options to renew our contract, and he's going to kind of go over a few things on how they audit and how the selections are made and that type of thing. So Glenn,
Okay, great.
go ahead.
Well, I guess primarily I'm just here to kind of answer questions. I wasn't really sure, we submitted a contract renewal. And we got feedback saying that the city council wanted to renew for 1 year as opposed to 3. So we're not necessarily opposed to that, but understand if we renew with only a 1 year contract extension, there's going to be a cost increase to the city. Just because when we look at contract renewals, we tend to project out our staffing needs and levels and expenses and so forth, and we spread those out over the contract period when we're doing budgeting. So we're not opposed necessarily to doing a 1 year contract, but we just need the council to understand that there's going to be a cost impact of that.
Okay, all right. So questions for Glenn on what we were, most concerned with as far as the contract. I'm opening it up. So Katie.
Sure, I guess I'll start. So I guess I have a couple of questions. One of my big questions is, when was the last time you audited any of our franchise agreements? And do you know, or would that be in the plan during a 1 year or even a 3 year extension?
I'd have to go back and look to see if when the last time we've done any specific testing of franchise information, because without looking at prior work papers, I really can't say. As a general rule, when we're looking at the franchise, really when we're looking at any revenue stream, one of the first things we do is an analysis and kind of projections and various things to look from a risk-based approach where we think, from an audit perspective, the risk of potential material misstatement and so forth may reside within the financials and concentrate emphasis there. Although, as a general rule, when we're doing the audits both in the preliminary phase and in final fieldwork phase, we always talk to management about, are there any areas with which they are concerned? And I think, as you're aware, Katie, we've sent out inquiries and so forth, requesting council members to do the same, so that if there are areas of concern, we take that into account when we're doing our preliminary planning for that year's engagement.
Okay. Out of curiosity, how long is the average contract? Not the 3 year contract necessarily, but how many years are you typically the auditor for one city?
it varies. We have some cities, honestly, actually some other cities and other municipalities, because we audit more than just cities. We audit, other small districts, special districts. Our niche is smaller entities, but I have some audit clients that I've audited for 20 years, actually more than that, 20. I've got one city on the coast that we've audited for probably 26 years. And it's not that they don't reevaluate periodically, but that relationship has continued because there's a benefit in that long-term relationship, both for the auditee and the auditor, because in some respects, as when we pick up a new engagement, we are training city staff as much as city staff is sort of training us in process procedures and those sorts of things. And it takes a while to sort of develop that relationship, and having that history is a good thing in my opinion.
Okay.
Yes, I see both sides of it. I see the pros and the cons. I don't know if I'm sure that you're our auditor. You know that Estacada has been burned in the past, not necessarily the city of Estacada, but our community has seen embezzlement happen and not get caught for the longest time. So it is a dark part of our history. That being said, I just want everyone to know, not necessarily you, Glenn, but I want everyone to know that the man I call my stepdad, he's been in my life since I was 13. He's the only reason I'm in city government at all. And he actually was the Multnomah County auditor for 9 years, 10 years, something like that, Steve March. And so I talked to him a lot about budgets and auditings and things like that. And when the advice from the Multnomah County auditor is to periodically change your auditors, it's usually sound advice, because you get fresh eyes on the budgets and the audits. And I think that there are benefits to that as well, getting fresh eyes on it and being able to catch things that maybe complacent eyes have become used to. So that's just my 2 cents, and I'll open the floor to everybody else.
Well, Katie, one thing I would like to say, and I think obviously given your background in history, but one of the things that I think is a misunderstanding among most people, whether it's council members or lay people, is that, and when you go and look at the statistics, what you will find, and this isn't just within Oregon, within municipal accounting, but within auditing in general, that an external audit is, statistically speaking, the least likely way, or one of the least likely ways, for any sort of fraud or misappropriation of assets or defalcation to come to light, primarily because we don't, unlike I think common misperception, we don't look at all the transactions that flow through an entity, because if we did, you would never be able to afford the audit and we would never get done. There are other mechanisms that generally will bring that sort of situation to light more readily than just an audit. So just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of that.
Okay. Jerry, you had a question?
He actually answered it already, so thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Joel.
So Glenn, I actually work in the cybersecurity field, and as you might know, that there's a lot of auditing that goes on in that. It's something we have to deal with, both internal and external audits. And furthermore, that's actually in a financial company that I work in. So you can imagine the amount of audits that come down from us there. So one of the things that is very common in our field is to have a rotation, as Katie alluded to, a rotation of auditors. That doesn't mean that you fully sever the relationship with an auditing company. That you rotate different companies in and out. So you might go a period of 3, 6, maybe even 8 years with an auditor. Most common in our field is 3 years, and then you bring in a different company for 3 years, and then you cycle the other one back in. And what that does is it does keep the relationship on edge a little bit. So the auditors are more likely to catch things that are kind of off a little bit, gives them fresh eyes when they come in. And usually that also allows new people from the previous auditor. So while they might get trained and they might have a good flow for 3 years, it still keeps them on their toes. And they do that a lot in our industry. So I'm kind of curious. My question to you is, How is that something that you see in what you do, or as far as your field? Because I know it's very common in ours.
Well, to some degree, yes. But I will tell you that over the last, I've been doing this 26 plus years, and the number of firms, not just the number of CPAs, but the number of firms within the state of Oregon that are performing municipal audits has shrunken over the last, well, I think really over the last decade, but probably the last 12 to 15 years for a lot of different reasons. So while you do see some of that switching of auditors and so forth, a lot of times, even when entities go out for bid, the entities may not change for a lot of different reasons. One of which is the number of firms that are actually performing municipal audits is shrinking because there's less individuals coming into the industry, and then less firms specializing in the municipal arena. And, because of that, anytime you have that sort of a switchover, it's not that the change is necessarily bad, but you have to understand that along with that is going to come price increases. That just is the nature of the way things work. So, and again, we're not opposed to you going out for bid. It doesn't mean that we're not going to bid. It just means that when you decide to make that decision, you have to understand that there more likely than not will be a cost to that decision. So.
Okay.
What kind of cost increase are you talking about? Just give me a rough idea.
Probably 12 to 15% would be my guess.
Okay.
Okay,
Right,
so
that, he's right that there's less, because the last time we went out for bid, I think we had three bids, where before, years ago, we'd have 10. But I will say that you don't always know what you're going to get either. And I'm not going to mention any names, but our auditor before, as Glenn can attest to, it took the first 2 years to straighten out stuff that really was done the wrong way. And, we aren't auditors, so we didn't know. And it was a mess. And so you just never know what you're going to get either. So.
okay. Katie, you have another question?
So I guess, Joel, the one thing I wanted to mention is you referenced kind of the change in auditors and so forth. Understand that within our professional standards, we are required by our professional governing body to do several things with ongoing clients, one of which is to change and modify the approach that we take to an engagement from a year-to-year basis. And I think Sadie and Denise can both attest to the fact that, when we come in to do the audit, we look at different things every year. We look at even the same things in a different way. We may come at a different an audit area with a different perspective and so forth, specifically because that's what our standards say we're supposed to do. But we also then rotate staff periodically within those engagements so that we have internally different folks maybe looking at different parts of the engagement from a different perspective as well.
Good, thank you. Katie, you have another question?
I just want everyone to know I am not speaking ill toward Acuity or anything. That is not the purpose of what I am saying. What I do want to point out though is just a response to what Denise was saying about how when Acuity came in and they started noticing things that may have been done incorrectly or things that should have been done differently. The only reason that we found those issues is because we brought in a different auditor. That's one of the reasons why I keep saying having that cycle of different auditors can be beneficial, is because that's when you find out stuff like that. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Again, I'm not disparaging the company that we use right now at all. What I am saying though is that there are benefits that Denise just attested to cycling out auditors.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? Paul, you've got a question?
I was just gonna chime in here. It seems like we had a couple things going on. One, I remember we talked about the swapping out of auditors and, the potential that could bring, but it seems like the big thing that I remember was, are we just isn't it the prudent thing to do at the end of a contract to put out for bid for another contract? And I think that's where what we were saying, let's go for a 1 year so that we can put this out for bid again. Which we probably, I think as a council, feel like should have been done at the end of the 3 year with Acuity, just putting it out for bid again. Which could lead to hiring Acuity again over and over, without a swap out of an auditor, which is fine, as long as we're doing the right thing and putting out to bid the contract. And I think I just wanted to bring that before us all as well too, that was a big part of what we discussed.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, anybody else with any questions for Glenn? Glenn, we appreciate your time and kind of giving us some insight as to what it is we're all doing here and the questions that they had. So I appreciate that. I guess it's time to decide what we're going to do and give direction here. I'm still a mixed bag here, so I'm not sure what we're asking for. Do we want to go the 1 year and then put it out for bid again, like we talked about? Is that what I'm getting in the direction here? I'm seeing a few heads shake, not all heads.
Yeah.
But is that what we wanted?
Well, hold on.
Yeah, Katie, go ahead.
So we only got a ballpark number today for the 1 year contract. I would like to see the revised bid for a 1 year contract before I approve a contract.
Okay, well, like I say, I'll have to talk to my business partner. We'll draft up, 1 year contract provisions. We can shoot those to Sadie. Probably within probably day 2 days tops. So then if you guys have any questions, feel free to get back to us.
Okay, great. That's perfect. Joel, you have one more question before
Yeah, I just want to make sure we remind our timeline here. Do we have time for him to shoot that back and then during the next scheduled council meeting to bring it up for a vote then? Or are we getting close to our timeline?
No, I think we're able to bring it back.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
Okay. We thank you for that.
Thanks,
All
Glenn.
right. We're ready
Thanks,
to move
Glenn.
on.
But
Thank you, Glenn. We appreciate you. Moving on to the next thing. It's the second consideration for ordinance 2021-001 and ordinance adding sections 9.12.060 indecent exposure to the Estacada Municipal Code. So we've had this before. This is the second reading, I'm sure, a third. What is it we're on now? I think it's the second. Yes. Okay. So can I get a motion on the floor for this?
I move to approve ordinance 2021-001. An ordinance adding section 9.12.060 indecent exposure to the Estacada Municipal Code.
All right,
Second.
thank you. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Yeah, I have a first and second. I don't know which one raised it up first, but I'm sure you got it. Sadie, did.
Yeah, I got
Okay.
Justin. Thanks.
All right, I have a first and second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to the next thing, we have a resolution 2021-002, a resolution of the Estacada City Council amending the City of Estacada Council rules and procedures. So, go ahead, Katie.
Sadie, I just want to say thank you for doing such a good job jotting down all the notes. There was a lot of discussion. That being said, I just wanted to bring up there was one thing I felt like that was missing from the new rules of engagement, particularly for the public, not public hearings, but the public engagement. Oh, where is it? I know it's here.
Third page, I think.
Oh, here we go. Public members addressing the council. So yes, we do have in there that a public member addressing the council needs to be limited for 30 minutes for the citizen comment period. But I didn't see where we put a 5-minute time time limit on each speaker.
We changed it to 3.
That's
or
right.
3. I don't see that here
Just,
either.
just above that, the sentence right before that.
Oh, okay. Okay. There we
Oh.
go.
She typed
I
it up
missed it.
words because that was the thing I had to.
Okay.
Okay. See, it was just hidden in there. And it was weirdly worded. A public member addressing the council shall be limited. Okay. With a maximum amount of 30 minutes. Okay. It was just a weird sentence, but yeah, now that I see it, it's making a little bit more sense. Okay. I guess that was my one and only thing that I wanted to make sure was in there, but otherwise it looks really good. So thank you.
Okay, anybody else before we put it to motion?
Sadie's pretty perfect, I tell you that.
Yeah, oh yeah. All right, so can I have a motion on the floor?
I move to approve resolution 2021-002, a resolution of the Estacada City Council amending City of Estacada Council rules and procedures.
Okay, I have a first. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a first and second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. All right, we are at the next citizen and community group comment. Do I have anybody in the bar? Sadie?
I don't see any hands raised.
Oh, wow. This is a moment. Okay. Moving along, we have mayor, council reports and comments. So I will start off with Paul. You're on the top row. So.
I have nothing further to add. Thanks for the great meeting tonight.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Justin.
I'm good. Thanks, guys.
Okay, Katie.
Yeah, so 2 things, or 3 things, I'm sorry. First thing, I want the council to know that what I asked Denise to put on the workshop for Monday as it relates to the marijuana ordinance speaks to what Dawn was speaking to earlier today, which is that our city's ordinance is much, much, much more restrictive than the state's ordinance on where marijuana retail stores can be open. I really want on Monday for us to have a productive conversation about where it can go. I know that in the past, the answer has been, well, in the industrial park. However, when we redid our comprehensive zoning map last year in February, and we created the new light industrial zone or whatever up there, marijuana retail is actually a prohibited use. So that's no longer an option. We have to actually talk productively about where businesses can open. And what I really want to do, you guys, is I want to just remove some red tape. We've heard from other businesses how our city is a headache to work with when starting a new business and things like that. And I've seen it, and I want to make sure that we're removing some of the red tape and making it easier for people to do business in Estacada, not harder. That being said, if you guys could take some time over the weekend or over the next week, I should say, to read up on the laws that were versus the laws that are now. I know that a couple weeks ago, Melanie Wagner sent us all a buffer map that was made back in 2017 as it relates to the within 1,000 feet of schools, parks, and churches, which if you look at that buffer map, means not in Estacada. And that's the really sad part about it, is that we have put so many restrictions on a legal business that it's impossible to do business in our city. So I would like to have a real conversation with everybody on Monday about what we can do as a council to change that. I have several ideas, and I'm looking forward to hearing your ideas as well. Second thing is, we still have neighbors without power. I don't want anyone to forget about them. We've been lucky. Most of us have had power for about a week, maybe even longer, some of us, but we still have some neighbors that don't have power. That being said, if you know of anyone who needs food, water, heat, resources, please direct them to the resources, because they're out there. We've got the National Guard in our county now helping bring those resources out to people. Check on your neighbors if you're concerned about them, particularly neighbors who are using generators. I almost lost my mom to carbon monoxide poisoning from her generator. I'm very blessed that my mom is still with us today. But we've lost neighbors in our county to carbon monoxide poisoning, and it's a real thing out there. And I just want everyone to look out for each other. And if you end up saving your neighbor's life the way my mom's neighbor saved hers, thank you. So just check on your neighbors. And then my last thing is thank you to the linemen, not only those who work for PGE, but those who came from out of our state and into our state to help us restore power. You guys are out there working really hard, and we appreciate you. That being said, if you are someone who is frustrated by the lack of power, I get your frustration, but please don't take it out on the linemen. I've heard too many stories about people taking their frustrations out on the linemen, and it's just not fair because they're here for us and they need to do their job so that more of us can have power. So thank you everyone for bringing the power to Estacada, for checking on your neighbors and taking care of one another. Thank you everyone. So.
Thank you, Katie. Let's go with Charity.
I just want to thank city staff for putting together this packet, and especially Sadie for really condensing and being pretty accurate in our our workshop that got a little messy. So I really appreciate you taking the time and so eloquently drafting that for us. And Katie, I want to thank you for mentioning that about the linemen. I agree. I was reading some disturbing posts online and things where people were being quite nasty to people who are trying to help us in our community. And so I just want to encourage our community to have some patience and be kind to those people who are trying to help us. And I appreciate them. I appreciate all the workers out there. I appreciate people coming in from out of state, helping us out again, like they did with the fires. And it's really humbling to see that. So it's good to see the community come together, and hopefully people can, just hang in there a little bit longer. And if people do need help, there are those resources out there. Again, yeah, I agree. Thanks everybody tonight for a good meeting. Sorry, I was trying out my earbuds earlier. My family was upstairs and I was trying to drown out the noise, but I guess the earbuds weren't working that well. So apologize for the technical difficulties, but that's all I got.
Thank you, Charity. Jerry.
City staff, amazing as always. You guys are rock stars. So excuse me.
That's COVID stuff.
Thank you for that. What people don't understand, what some people don't realize is we have a large contingent of PG employees that live in Estacada and the surrounding area. Those guys were out there just kicking butt, with cutting trees and fixing lines, and just like Katie said, they're out there doing it not just for themselves, but for this community and everybody that came in from other communities from around. It was pretty amazing to see. I know I had one neighbor that took sandwiches and coffee to the guys that were working on 6th, going up Copeland. So just it's really cool to see community involvement, people just getting out there and helping their neighbors and stuff. So man, what just a tragic last 14 months we've had. So but yeah, thank you everybody. It's been this last 14 months has been really eye-opening. So thank you.
Thank you. Joel.
A couple things. One, definitely thank you to Denise for having patience with me. I know I have a lot of stuff that I usually bring up every council meeting, and that's usually kind of sends you sprawling and usually a lot to go over. But I'm passionate about doing what's right for Estacada, what I hear from the community and trying to get their voice out there. So along with people that are out there with dealing with the power issues and everything else, I was down in Salem over the weekend, and it's just as bad down there. So it's definitely very much a statewide thing. There's people that when I was staying in the hotel for the event I was down there at, there was half the hotel was filled with people that didn't have power that lived in Salem, our capital of the city. Of the state. So understand it's not just our area that's also running out of power. So definitely have that patience with the people that are trying to do everything they can to get it done for you, and realize it's a statewide issue. That storm hit everybody. Everybody's doing the best they can to get it cleaned up. There was trees down in the middle, literally sticking out into the road in the middle of Salem, the city of Salem. So, and that was a week after the storm hit. So, but for those local that do need it, there are resources like Estacada Community Watch has some generators and things out there for people that are still without power. So reach out to them. The food bank has money. Has a food for that. There is resources through different groups in the area to help get food out to people, to heat out to people. So, just reach out, and we can get things taken care of in that area. I do know that the DEIC thing was controversial, especially because it's a personal thing for Jerry, and I do understand that, and I hope you understand that everybody understands that my attempt to get that is to make sure that it's to help everybody, and to make sure that it has a long lasting effect for everybody. So again, thank you, city staff. Thank you everybody for what you do. The last thing was, there's been I saw some rumors about a whole bunch of break-ins off of Lakeshore. We checked in with those with the sheriff's department, and there hasn't been a string of them down there according to them. But I did want to say that if there has been crimes that happen in the city, people need to remember to report those, because the sheriff's office needs to have those reports in order to respond to them. So if there has been attempted break-ins in an area and they're not reported, they don't know that they need to send extra patrols down that area, or they need to shift how they're having their patrol patterns. So it's absolutely critical. Even if you think it's a small issue, call in a non-emergency and make a small report. That helps them do their job better for you, and it doesn't make you a pain. It makes you a help for them. So report crimes when you see them to the sheriff's office, so that they can be properly handled and they get those stats that they need. So that's it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. All of you had a lot to say and good stuff. It's a great thing when you've got a council that covers just about everything, and then you have nothing left to say. I want to thank everybody tonight.
Did we miss Paul?
Oh, did we? No, I got
No?
Paul.
Oh, okay.
But having a council like that makes me very happy that you all stay in touch with the people and the citizens you represent. So thank you for that. And just remember, when you're out there driving, still be careful. We drove down the curves tonight. There were 2 power lines still down in the curves that I drove over myself. So when you're out there, be safe. Be safe with the workers that are out there. They're trying to be, as helpful as they can. Let's just look out for them as best we can. So I appreciate all of you. And I thank staff for everything that you do. And I know it's hard some nights with us, but we appreciate you. So thank you for that. And I'm going to let you all go. And this meeting is now adjourned.